Okay, so genes are the basis to heredity in pretty much all living things. They make us the way we are and give contrast to most of the things we're surrounded by. Pretty much everything is affected by the way genes work. I mean, it's almost hard to conjure a society where we don't have the ability to differentiate living things by our initial perception of them. Although genetic variety is the very reason for our diversity, it leaves a much more complicated process for our cells to go through. Being such complicated organisms, it's kind of surprising for someone with a scientific mind that there's not more that goes wrong during meiosis and development. My name is Anna, and I want to give you a little lesson today about something regarding genetics. Genetic mutations and disorders are results of something that ends up slightly off after meiosis or fertilization. There is a wide variety of disorders affecting people in numerous ways. Though we could talk about how incredible and complicated life on this planet is all day, there is one condition in particular that I want to talk to you about now. Piebaldism. Piebaldism is pretty rare. An estimated 1 in 100,000 people are affected. The condition affects both males and females equally and does not only affect humans, but animals as well. So, what exactly is piebaldism? Piebaldism is a genetically inherited skin condition affecting the pigmentation of skin. An estimated 80 to 90% of people affected, in fact, have a white patch on their forehead, causing the forelock of their hair and frontal area of their scalp to appear white, or a lighter shade of their natural coloring. It can also affect the color of eyebrows and eyelashes, but that is not as common. Often, patches of lighter skin are surrounded by smaller patches of darker, hyperpigmented skin. Sometimes, spots of a person's normal skin tone or even spots of a darker color can appear within their white spots. Just like any inherited trait, piebaldism is the result of something that happens in meiosis, but what exactly occurs during this process to cause such conditions? Before I explain the intricacies of the process causing this condition, I will give you an idea of how meiosis works. Meiosis is the division of sex cells. Sex cells are the only cells in the body that go through this process. The biggest difference between meiosis and mitosis is that meiosis goes through all of mitosis's stages twice, leaving each cell with not 46 but only 23 chromosomes. Also, when the cell divides, information mixes up. That causes something called genetic variety, which is extremely important to our individual characteristics. If you want more information on exactly how these cells work, I highly recommend reading up on it. It is very interesting to learn about and will greatly expand your understanding and knowledge on why people are the way they are. Okay, so this is a very basic definition of mutation and how it comes to be. These mutations happen while meiosis is taking place, and it either results from too much genetic change or lack of the transmission of genetic material. So, now to explain how this mutation takes place and the way it plays into development. Although there are multiple ways that this can develop, the mutation of certain genes is the most common. Common piebaldism is the mutation of the KIT and SNAI2 genes. The KIT gene is responsible for making proteins, more specifically, proteins in cells that are responsible for signaling. What a mutation means is that they're not able to signal for the development of certain cell types. This mostly affects melanocytes. Not having these cells not only limits the production of pigments, but also limits the proliferation of the body's pigments as well as certain cells. Now for the other mutated gene. SNAI2 is necessary for the protein production of SNAIL2. It helps produce neural crest cells. These cells are responsible for the growth of certain tissues during the embryonic stage. This can cause an initial lack of development for melanocytes, or pigments. These mutations are inherited through an autosomal dominant pattern. It's not as confusing as it sounds. This only means that one copy of the diseased allele is necessary to cause a certain phenotype. Those are pretty rare, though. Although only one parent needs the mutated gene, it doesn't make the mutation itself common. Although piebaldism is usually visible, tests are often required to differentiate it from similar conditions, such as vitiligo or poliosis. A skin biopsy is usually ordered for anyone who wants a diagnosis. This will show the absence of melanocyte proteins and melanin pigment in the skin. Piebaldism mostly affects the looks of skin, but the question is, are there any systematic implications attached to the disorder? Luckily for people affected, there are no direct effects on their piebaldism has on their health, as the patches affected are benign. They are more susceptible to sunburn, though, which for anyone can become an issue if their prolonged exposure to sunlight is reacting badly with their skin. The only concern remains about the long-term health of people is the sensitivity of protein-deficient skin and their susceptibility to precancerous growth due to exposure. Although the condition poses no immediate threat, it can cause some to feel self-conscious. Luckily, there are ways it can be treated. Here are a few common treatment options that may be chosen by people with piebaldism. Dermabrasion is one. In this procedure, the top layer of the affected skin is removed, usually with a wire brush or metal wheel. After the skin is removed, melanocyte-rich cell suspensions are put in place of where it was to even out the skin tone. A melanocyte transplant is also an option. In this procedure, an area of skin is shaved off and replaced with a patch of skin from somewhere else on the body. UV light therapy, where radiation is used to change skin tone, is also an option. Medically, people may ask if such high-risk surgeries are worth it. Although there are not many society-wide ethical issues surrounding this condition, some religions may hold belief against the change of appearance. Socially, the way people can be viewed or affected by the condition may be an issue. Some may ask if it is worth treating based on the way they are stigmatized alone. And finally, let's review some facts. Piebaldism is genetically inherited. It affects approximately 1 in 100,000 people, but that number's not sure. It causes uneven pigmentation of the skin, which causes different colors. People may be judged or subjected to some form of discrimination, so it can make you self-conscious. A lack of melanin is what causes the pigmentation. It is inherited through an autosomal dominant pattern. It's in the KIT and SNAI2 genes. It's benign, but it may cause skin sensitivities. Well, thank you so much for watching, and I hope you learned something today. Peace.